Like any other typical web application, the WebBank is also going to have a side nav and a top nav. Side nav going to have the links that will take the user to different areas of the application, whereas the top nav is going to have a username, a user profile picture, and a drop down with some links like logout and some others we will see when we'll be working on this application. Both the side nav and the top nav are going to use Angular Materials controls. For side nav, we are going to use Angular Materials side nav, and for top nav, the toolbar, we are going to use Angular Materials toolbar. In one of the videos earlier, I explained how we can incorporate Angular Materials in our project, along with how to incorporate Bootstrap in our project. I'm going to paste the link of that video in the description so that you can understand how to incorporate these libraries like Angular Material and Bootstrap using Angular CLI. So before we begin, let's understand what we have right now in our application. So in our application right now, we have a simple project structure that was created using ng new, and we added some blank components for different areas of an application. We added a component for dashboard, deposit funds, manage account, open account, transfer funds, but these components have actually nothing in it right now. So they were just added by creating an Angular, using an Angular CLI's ng generate command. So like we discussed, we have index.html page that has an app root mentioned here, and this is where we are going to inject, where Angular actually injects whatever is in app component.html, and app component.html have nothing in it other than a router outlet. This is the place where it is going to inject the components for which the user is trying to visit our route, and some of the routes are also mentioned here in the routing module. We have routes for a few of the components, but those components are just empty. So in this lesson, we will try to understand how to use Angular Material Side Nav and Toolbar, and this app component is going to serve as a skeleton of this application. So let's begin with Angular Materials Side Nav. Here I am at Angular Materials Side Nav's page from Angular Material on Angular Materials website. A side nav has basically two areas. There is a drawer content, the one that comes from the left side and opens and closes. And then there is a main content where we will be injecting the components that will be visited by clicking on the links on the side, on the left side. And both main component and the side component will be placed inside mat side nav container. So there is going to be an outer thing which is called mat side nav container. That mat side nav container is going to have our drawer, the thing that opens and closes on the left side, and then it's going to have a main content like that. The drawer component is designed to add a side content to a small section of an application. But if you want to do it for the entire page, where it creates a layout with a left position side nav and an explicit content, then we have to use this mat side nav container. So we will simply copy this thing and we replace it in app component. And remember, the app component is the one that gets injected in place of app root, which is the part of index.html. So as described earlier, it has an app side nav container that contains the whole thing. And then within the app side nav container, we have app side nav, which will be having the left side of the application. And then it has app side nav content, which is going to have the right side of application, where rest of the components will be loaded. Since we know that we have something called router outlet, and whenever someone visit our route, the specific component gets injected in place of router outlet. So we will simply place router outlet here. And our side nav is not a simple side nav, it's a bit stylish side nav. It's going to have its HTML and CSS and styles. And so for that, we are not going to put everything inside here. Instead, we are going to create a component called the Side Nav component, and we will put that Side Nav component here instead of putting the entire HTML of the Side Nav here. So let's create that component using the command ng generate component, and it's going to be the Side Nav component. So now we have a Side Nav component, and this Side Nav component will be referred using this thing. So we are going to place this Side Nav component here. So this app Side Nav is going to be replaced with not exactly replaced, but it's going to hold the style of this left side nav, and also these icons and also these links. But before we do that, let's set up some basic page styles so that our overall page looks good. Please note that HTML and CSS is beyond the scope of this lesson. I might be copying some HTML and CSS snippets. I might be explaining it a little bit, but I don't want to waste time typing that HTML and going over all the CSS styles because that is kind of beyond the scope of this lesson. So in our style.css, we are going to import some font awesome fonts, and then Bootstrap has already been added, so we will have our body at 100% height. We will have some HTML for the body as some styles for the body. We are just setting a good background color, which you saw in the application. There is a blackish gradient background color, so we just set up that. And then we are going to add the Side Nav component in the imports array. We are also going to set up a schema and using a custom element schema, and for that we are just going to create an array of schemas that will be done right here, and we can simply add a reference to it from Angular core. So what we have is a mat side nav container and then a mat side nav. Within that we have our custom component which is going to hold HTML and styles of our side nav, and then this is from mat side nav content, which is from Angular Materials. It is going to have hold all the components that will be visited, and those components will be injected in router outlet. We are going to give it an identifier, and we are also going to supply it with a class called opened. This class will actually open the side nav by default, and we are also going to set a mode of this to side so that we know that this side nav is going to be on the side. With that, let's see what's the output of it. We are going to spin up the server, and let's also save everything. So let's visit localhost 4200, and yeah, we have a side nav on the left and we have side nav contents on the right. And since we are visiting the default route, and default route was supposed to inject the dashboard, so it is injecting dashboard. And if we are going to visit, let's say, manage accounts, the manage accounts will be loaded in that place. Now that we know that we have a side nav in our application, let's style this side nav. I'll be copying some of the CSS and HTML, and I'll be explaining them a little bit. So let's jump over to the app side nav component. So when we created this side nav, we got an HTML of it, and we also got a CSS of it. in our application, as you can see, we have a side nav, and then we have a logo, and then we also have a name called BB Bank. So let's do this part of it first. So let's see what we've got. We have just an outer div, and then we have a class logo, which is going to place the logo of this application. And then we also, whenever somebody clicks that logo, we want to, go to the default page, which is going to be the dashboard. So we have placed it here. And then the image which I just show, which is just an Angular logo, it's going to be inside this a div. So if somebody clicks that Angular image, Angular logo, it will take it to the default page, which is our dashboard. And then, as you can, I just showed you, next to the logo there is the name of the application written, which is BB Bank. So it is just simply coming here. So this is just a simple HTML. And then this class logo and this class side nav, let's see, let's place it here in our CSS. So it has the background color. You saw it has a reddish kind of a gradient background color. It's going to have a height, a proper width on the left side of the application, a bit of a shadow, and then we're just positioning the logo here, and then giving some animations and transformations, and then the text on the hyperlinks, how they will look like. We are also styling that list to make them look good. And then when we hover over those links, they're gonna change color and a bit of an animation there as well. So it just has this kind of a thing right now. So the actual links that we are going to place here, as a list. So what we are going to do is that we are going to style this list, and then we are going to have our default route, which will take us to the dashboard. So if somebody is trying to visit a default route, so let's go to our route and let's see what it looks like. So our default route is going to be like an empty route right now. So if somebody is trying to go to slash, it means that they will be taken to the default component, which will be the dashboard component. And then so after that, we are just going to have a route for our other components. So let's pick up one of them. Let's pick up a route for manage accounts. So so there will be, if somebody clicks manage account, they will be taken there. So let's do manage accounts here. And then same way, if somebody clicks open account, they will be taken to the open accounts component using router outlet. And I also placed icon, this Angular icon, which is going to be shown on the side nav. I also placed it at the correct location. So what we have right now is the side nav CSS file, which is styling the hyperlinks and also styling the side nav background color and the logos and the text on the side nav. And the classes that are mentioned in the CSS are placed here on the outer div, on the logo, and then also on the hyperlinks. And please note that we are using router link from Angular. This router link will be actually taking us to the component that is set up against those particular routes. And we also have some let's save everything, and let's see what it looks like. So if we go to the application on port 4200, we can see that we have a side nav. It is styled and it has everything. It's just that it does not have a height because the content which is on the right side of it has no height. So we are just going to give some height to this part. So we are going to go to the dashboard and so this is the dashboard, and we are just going to give it some, we're going to put it inside a div. And then we are going to give 100% height to this, or 600 pixel height to this dashboard component. So now you can see that we have a full height of this dashboard component, and because of the content has a height, because of that the side nav also have a height. We have the font awesome icons also coming here. The hyperlinks are also properly styled, and the path to the logo is also resolved properly. So the matte left nav bar can be opened and closed using some actions on that side nav bar. So we have an action called open, which will open it, close, which will close it, and toggle is going to, you know, reverse it. If it's open, it's going to close it, and it's going to, if it's closed, it's going to open it. But to perform these actions, we are going to use Angular Materials top nav. Now this top nav is actually going to have a button on the left side, and using that button we will be opening and closing this side nav. As you can see, the toolbar is going to be on the top of the application, and the side nav and the side nav contents are below the toolbar. So what this actually means is that we are going to place the toolbar somewhere here. So we are going to create a component called toolbar. The newly created toolbar will be injected here. So remember that this toolbar is going to control the side nav, and then to refer the side nav inside the toolbar, we are going to take an input parameter inside the toolbar. So let's take this parameter. It's going to look something like this. It's going to be an Angular's input parameter, which will be of type mat side nav. So to consume this parameter, we are going to place it in the app toolbar inside app component, and then we will use this input parameter, and the value of this input parameter is going to be the identifier of our side nav. So what's happening here is that we are connecting the toolbar with the side nav. In the HTML of the toolbar, we are going to have navigation markup, and this is going to have some styles. We will look at those styles later, but the most important part is that it is going to have a styled button using the HTML A tag, and then when this button is clicked, the input variable that we just took and that input is actually the side nav, we are going to call toggle on that click. And if we go to the port 4200, we will see that at the beginning and the side nav is closed, The reason for that is that in the app component, I removed the open class. So instead of using an open class, we are going to use this arrangement of input side nav input variable. And on this click, we are actually going to perform the toggle operation. So this toggle operation is being performed here on the toolbar component. So when a button on the left side is clicked, it is going to perform a toggle. So whenever we click here, you can see that if the quite of animation, the side nav is opening from the side. The other part of the toolbar was this logo and the name of the user that is logged in. Right now we don't have authentication, but in later modules we will have authentication. But this the image of the user, the name of the user, and the drop down, I am going to use some HTML here. So it just has that default image you saw, just an anime image, name. Right now just put in my name, and then it's there is a div which is styled to be a small drop down button, and then within that there are going to be two hyperlinks using HTML tag, and then they are also styled. All of these styles are here. They are just simple styles. We are just setting up a background color to match the background color of our application. The side nav buttons are styled. The hover over, there is an hover over effect, and then 100% width to the image we have, and then the photo is going to be a small circle, so that's why we have a circle radius of a 50%. Photo is going to be in the middle, overflow is the hidden. There are some normal styles here. Like I mentioned, I mean, explaining each of these styles is beyond the scope of this application. So this small button right here is actually going to toggle a div open and close, and then the way these two things are linked here is using this ID. So the toggle button on the left top have an ID called navbar drop down menu link, and this is the same ID that is used here inside the div that is going to be opened and closed. So let's save everything and see the effect of it. So as you can see, now we have our toolbar. If we open click the button, we can open and close the side nav, and then we have a name of the application, name of the user who is logged in, and its image as well. When I'm clicking it, it's not opening. To make it work, make sure that you have these three JavaScripts in your index.html, a popper.js, bootstrap min.js, and this slim.min.js. So now that we have that, you can see that our drop downs are also opening. Our side nav is also opening, closing. And if we go to a different route, it also works. It's just that this route does not have a proper height. But if we go to the dashboard route, it will work.